Let's just go in there. Like, the problem that I feel like we all experience, like when we come from a regular job, is we were supposed to work from 9 to 5, and we were supposed to do these tasks, and we were supposed to go through, right? Like, it's very structured, we knew what to do. The difference now is that even though if you're on a team, if you're not, it doesn't matter. If you're in real estate, you are the CEO, right? Like, this is your business, this is your brand, this is everything that you're building. Now, that's this person, right? So like, you can be this person, but the truth is that you're this person, you're the manager, and you're the employee. And I can break this down that you're the marketing manager, you're the HR, you're the sales manager. Like, I can break this into a million categories that you're wearing all of those hats inside of your business. So what we got to distinguish here is, if you are an employee of your business, so you're going to be both person, you're going to be the boss, the CEO, and you had an employee for your business, what are the tasks that you would ask that employee to do in a week? Just give me some activities that you feel like an employee would do for you in a week.
Make a certain amount of calls.
Okay, prospecting. What else?
Maybe like organizing or just like getting stuff like under control, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I would do as an employee.
Organization?
Yeah, organizing
For sure. A good follow-up plan.
All right.
Set reminders.
Follow up.
Yeah.
What about, posts on social media? Do you think you would have an employee do that?
Yeah.
All right, so social media.
What about like continuing education? Have you?
Continuing ed. Well, let's go deeper on that, right? So I will tell you that the reason that I was able to grow my business so fast is that I'm like an obsessed human being when it comes to learning, right? So like, I'm constantly dissecting everything that I do wrong, right? Like everything. Call went great. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better is a better question. What can I learn from this? And I think that seeking out knowledge in general is huge. So knowledge. What about, would you expect your employee to be in appointments with clients?
Yeah.
Right? Appointments.
I would set a minimum for each month.
So then there would be a standard, right?
Yeah, standard.
You would give yourself a standard. I think that's huge, right? I'm gonna write that here. Standard. This is how good my handwriting is. Standard is a big thing. Showing houses. We can keep going on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's where the question comes in is, how are you gonna talk to yourself? If you're the employee and you're the CEO, you gotta set time. You can't be both at the same time, unfortunately. You gotta set time that says, this is the time that I'm a CEO. And I'm gonna look at myself as the employee and say to myself, I've gotta do this, I've gotta do this, I've gotta do this. How many hours am I gonna spend this week? How about this? How many hours is my employee gonna work for me this week? That's really the first question, right? So we go over here, questions that the CEO asks. Questions.
I gotta start doing that too. Look at the time before I start like working,
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that. I
The
even
more
set
things you can keep
schedule.
track of, it's so much easier to dissect it and improve on areas that you're weak in.
Have you worked a job?
Of course.
Okay, so have you worked a job?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Pizza shop.
So now when you went, it wasn't just like show up to work and do whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, you had a set list of tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the reason you had that set list of tasks is that you would actually, as the CEO, put a dollar amount to every one of these things, right? Because let's say that I can hire a VA from the Philippines and I'm gonna pay that person $200 a week, right? And that person's gonna work 40 hours a week. If my time is worth, just give it, what do you think your time's worth? Give a number.
$100 an hour.
$100 an hour, perfect. So if your time's worth $100 an hour, we're looking at our business. How many hours a week do you feel that you spend in your email? Give me a number.
5 to 10.
5 to 10?
Maybe an hour a day or so.
So-
Work days, yeah.
10 hours.
Okay.
I'd probably say hour in total for me.
So for emails alone, so you're gonna say an hour a day? Okay,
Not
so,
for like a whole week, like in total, I'm barely ever in my emails.
Okay, so even an hour, right? So let's do these cost compare. So at 10 hours and your time's worth $100, that's $1,000 right there, or that's $100. Now let's go in social media. How much? Give me a number of how many hours a week you'll spend on zero. How many hours on social media?
I mean, right now, 0, but I mean, I would like to like maybe like 3, 4.
3, 4.
I feel like, yeah.
I think that's a great goal.
Yeah.
So there's 300. You can't hire somebody to do your continuing ed, maybe. You really, so there's things that you are going to be the highest dollar amount in here, and so prospecting is actually going to be your single most. That's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be being in appointments and showings. Actually, you could argue that you could have a showing agent. You could actually argue that that could be something that's inside of it. But what we're seeing here already is why the hell, if you can pay an employee $6 an hour, are you in your email for 10 hours, right? If it gets to be that big, we have to translate this out. So as you're talking to yourself as the employee and you have 40 hours in the week, you're saying to your employee, hey, Mr. Employee, the number 1 thing we can do this week is prospect to find new business. How many hours out of a 40-hour work week would you ask the employee to spend prospecting?
30.
Yeah. 30?
30?
30 of it. I was gonna say,
Okay,
yeah,
so now
25,
it's
so
30
30's better.
hours, right? So prospecting is going to get 30 hours right there. Now break that down. Now let's go a little deeper, right? So you're going to reserve time for appointments and showings, because if you're spending that time prospecting, you're going to have appointments and showing. So, and I think this is going to change here, but out of the week, how many hours should you reserve for showings and appointments?
I think 10.
10, okay. So that now we've got 10 hours here between these two, so. let's do-
We're like already out of hours for a 40-hour work week.
Well, you wanna know the truth,
I
man?
know, we're being
12,
crazy.
10 or 12.
When you're starting a business, the
It's
rest of
not
the stuff
40.
can wait, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's get some revenue first, because then we can compensate for these things, but you could also argue coming down. Now, let's segue in. So you're talking to yourself as the CEO talking to the employee. I can tell you from having, I don't know, something like 16 or 17 agents on this team over a course of time, I've never once had an agent that calls 30 hours a week. What do you think gets in the way there?
All the other stuff.
Go deeper.
You're not making yourself. You're not like being your own boss and making yourself do it. Maybe?
So it's this mindset.
I think it's bullshitting. I think you're still in work, like if a lead comes in and you and you go here and there and you research and you do this, and I fall underneath that category.
Right? Like,
Sometimes. I'm getting better at it.
what this comes down, so like when that's happening at the end of the day, you got to give yourself an end of day report. Like, okay, I spent 8 hours today. What did I do in that 8 hours? And be real, right? Like, not like I was in front and I intended on calling for 5 hours. Like, how much time did you actually spend calling? Because what you did, if you had given yourself on your calendar, which is where we're going to go next, and said, I'm going to give myself 3 hours today. This is my time block for calling people. I'm going to be as concise as possible. Maybe I'm going to give myself an hour afterwards to go back and make sure I set e-alerts and I follow up with these people, and like I set my tasks, or however it works out, right? But in that 3 hours, you're going to be you're going to say, Mr. Employee, I need you to be as efficient as humanly possible for these 3 hours, because I'm paying you for these 3 hours. Right? Like, does this make sense of how it goes? So the next question becomes, is when you walk into your job, you had a task list or something, right? Like you had a end of day where you'd have to check off that you did all these things, whatever it was, from the CEO or from the person. So you have to develop a time schedule, right? At 8 a.m. I'm doing this. 9, 10, 11, 12 on Google Calendar. You literally say that I'm gonna do this. You guys can pull up my calendar. Like that's how I live. Like this time's reserved for doing what we're doing. Gotta do that, because otherwise, what you're gonna do is, how would you like it if your employee was fucking off on social media on your dollar?
You'd be gone.
You'd fire him, right?
Yeah.
You'd fire him 110%. Like if he's just chilling watching some Netflix, meanwhile, like it's on your dime, it's at your expense. Like screw it, right? And like this is where like we're in a certain relationship where like I don't consider anybody on this team my employee. I consider everybody on this team somebody that I'm actually betting on. Like I've literally taken out my bankroll and I've said, I'm gonna bet on you because I think you can win. But I need y'all to talk to yourselves as if you're the CEO, because I can't truly hold you. I can hold you to a standard. That's why we've got the new call standard, right? I can hold you to certain standards on the team where that can be the filter for me. Like we got to do this as a minimum. But when we talk about 140 calls,
It's not.
what is that? 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, maybe, right? But everybody here agreed that 30 hours was the number. I promise y'all that if you dive in for 30 hours and you're calling people for 30 hours, you're gonna wake up in 3 weeks. You're gonna say, I don't know what to do, James. I don't know what to do with all these problems. Meanwhile, you've got 20 people in front of you that can all buy a house, and you got a pipeline of 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. You're trying to figure out how the hell can you service all these people.
A ton of mine are like all ways out, but they're still stacked up in there. I mean,
This right here, number 3. And I could argue that it's more valuable than this.
what does it say?
Follow up.
Follow up.
I could argue that this is more valuable than this in the long run, and that just comes down to recognizing it, right? Like, where are you failing in the follow up? What can I do to be better here? How can I do it? That's Coach Berg. That's Coach Berg for sure, is what that is. But any questions so far, like inside of this? I don't think I can go much further on this, but
I think that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense,
it
and
does.
it's really good. It's a really good mindset to think of it like that, because it's really truly. I mean, that's what you are, CEO.
I would give yourself a minimum of 1 hour to be the CEO every single week. Mine's Sunday.
What does that mean? Like planning your week and scheduling all the good stuff for your employees?
Self-review.
So the best way I've ever, one thing is, this is gonna go way further. So we gotta get clear on what our goals are, right? So what's our short-term goals? What's our long-term goals? What are our goals for our health and our wealth? Like you gotta have these things in alignment for it to make sense. But what you do is you build out a very long task list. Like you literally start in that hour saying, this week I'm going to prospect, I'm going to organize my database, I'm gonna follow up with people, I'm gonna make this many posts on social media, I gotta work on my continuing education. You're gonna go through each one of these things and put them on a task list. Then you're gonna take, I like to put an hour next to it. Like, is this gonna take me 10 minutes? Is it gonna take me an hour? Is it gonna take me 2 hours? Whatever it is. Then I bring them over here and you align your goals, right? So, just like this. So let's say over here that I've got a goal to do 20 transactions. That's my number 1 goal. I also have a goal to lose 10 pounds. Create a brand. And this one right here, I'm just gonna put MISC for now, but like whatever goes in this box is usually not gonna get done for the week. So 20 transactions, lose 10 pounds, create a brand. Prospecting is definitely gonna fall here and here, because prospecting helps you to build your brand. Organization, I think that that's gonna fall, realistically, I could argue that it doesn't fall in either one of these. You would have to decide if it's gonna fall here or it's gonna fall here. I'm gonna put it on miscellaneous. And it's only because I'm a big fan of making a giant mess and cleaning it up. Follow up, definitely here. And that's also a piece of your brand. And social media is gonna be here, because you can argue that I'm gonna get business off that social media and I can create my brand on social media. So through your task list, you're gonna fit them into everything, right? This is specifically real estate. For your task for the week, this could be eating. This could be working out. Any task that you're gonna do this week goes there, because then it falls into some of these personal goals. But at the end of it, what you say is, if I'm gonna spend 30 hours prospecting, there's 30 hours gone, so I'm down to 10. I'm gonna spend 3 hours following up. So now I'm down to 7. And as I'm doing this, I'm literally taking it from here and I'm putting it onto my calendar. These are the hours I'm gonna spend doing that. These are the hours I'm gonna spend doing that all the way through.
So the goal is the 20 transactions, and then the boxes that you're putting them in, those are like what you're gonna do to achieve that goal. Or maybe I have it.
These are all separate goals. So the number one goal may be here, or maybe my number one goal is lose pounds, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These are 4 different goals that we have, and you'll find that these will align with multiple boxes at the same time. And the more in alignment they are with all of your goals, those are the things that get prioritized first. Because I could argue with you, so if we had a real task list here, working out, personal development, which I think right here, I'd rather you spend 3 hours on personal development than organization. I'd rather, because no matter what, who you be, you can work your ass off, but if you don't become a better leader for people, you're not gonna be able to serve them for all the work that you're putting in. Like who you are is how you serve. So, but when you do this, right? So working out, I could argue that working out could be in all 3 of these boxes. Maybe at the gym, I can prospect and find somebody. Maybe at the gym, I can build my brand. Maybe at the gym, I can lose 10 pounds, right?
Married this past week.
Married this past, yeah, great example. Our trainer is looking for another rental.
Oh, nice.
So like there's case in point, right? Like you need to list out everything, right? Eating dinner with mom, going to hang out with my nephew, like all of it. Like that shit's important. If it has to do with what fulfills your soul, if you're not fulfilling yourself first, it's for nothing. It's not worth anything. And if you're not having fun while you do all this, it's bullshit. Like, go find something that's fun. Like, you gotta make it fun, because it's stressful. Like, anybody who says real estate ain't stressful, they're crazy. Definitely stressful, high levels of stress. This makes sense in a way to approach this. And I can also break out, like, there's Coach Kitchens gave me strategic planning, which is literally this in a nutshell. Coach Kitchens, my regular weekly coach. He has a whole document, a whole video training where like, this is how you do it. You spend an hour to 2 hours and it literally outlines your whole week.
I'd really enjoy to see something like that.
I've got it, I can send that to you. Keep in mind, all right, so the one thing I wanna sum this up with though, you build your schedule out, and let's say that you give yourself, let's say that from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is gonna be your hours for appointments and showings, because you're gonna have to reserve time for that, right? That's your time. Let's say we got no appointments and showings and it's 2 o'clock. And your employee's just sitting on the couch, like, man, I got some time to catch up on Stranger Things, you know? And your CEO brain's gotta be aware of where you're at, right? Like, if I'm sitting around and I'm dicking off on Netflix, remember what you said, right? I'm gonna fire that guy. Cool thing is you can fire him and you can become a new person right there within 30 seconds. Like,
That's cool.
yeah, like you can rehire yourself. So go through that every single time. But if you're not filling the hours with what you need to do, same thing comes back. No one here has a big enough database where like you could prospect for 30 hours. Like, I can argue the pond, but like the same argument I could say is come to me and say, James, I want to do more in the pond. If you come to me, I'm gonna figure it out. Like if you come to me and you want to figure out who to call, expired leads, for sale by owners. Like I can show you where the warmest ones are. They're harder. You got to work harder on your skill. Cool. That means you're even better after every time you fail. Cool. Does it make sense?
Yeah.